Spoiler alert from Mushoku Tensei Volume 16. If you haven't read it, then I suggest you do so before continuing on to this video. After his battle with Orested, Rudeus has now decided to work with him in hopes of defeating the man god. But little does he know, the first step to do so is going to be very tough. Hello everybody, this is the Anime Bro here and welcome to another video. And today I'll be reviewing Mushoku Tensei Volume 16. Now before this video starts, please like, share, and subscribe for more videos just like this. Come back next time as I talk about Volume 17. And now, let's begin the video. So the first thing that I want to talk about is the story. Now Volume 16 is actually a really good volume. The main focus of this volume is definitely Ariel, and we get to see her do kind of a growth in this episode. I mean, kinda, because the main focus of this volume is to get Purgius on Ariel's side, so that she can have an easier time getting on the throne. And I do like this part. It's a bit of political stuff, and it's not just like Ariel is the true queen and only she is good because she is morally good, you know. They actually do some political stuff and make it a bit more realistic than most fantasies do. But like I said, I really do like this one. This is like Ariel's story arc. She tries her best to win Purgius over, but she fails. She tries the same ways that she does with her human tributes, but she realizes he can't be won easily, and they have to go through this whole process, and she eventually learns what she needs to do, and eventually wins over Purgius' side. And this is kind of where I would say like the start of the downfall of the man god. I don't remember if I said that in the last video, but this is definitely where the man god's downfall starts. It has some incredible emotional moments for both Luke and Ariel, so you know they both have some good moments in there as well, and the flow was pretty nice. You know, we got to point A to point B pretty nicely, and it didn't feel like that every moment just happened because, well, they happened. But I do have to say, one thing I didn't like was kind of the beginning. Of course, it was an important thing, you know, Rudeus needed to find a guard dog, but out of the whole story of Volume 16, it kind of felt out of place. So that was like my only thing, but all in all, this was a good volume. From beginning to end, it really was a good time reading this. Alright, now let's talk about some characters. Now, there have actually been two characters in this that have been introduced, but sadly to say, I decided to focus on one, and that is Leo, the new pet of the Grey Rat family. So Leo is the sacred beast of the Dolida village, you know, the same beast that we met in Volume 4. He is white, and he really likes Rudeus, very much. And like I said before, he's now the guardian of the Grey Rat family, and also their pet, along with an armadillo and a treant. He really enjoys the family and is very protective of Roxy. In fact, he is attached with Roxy, especially at this point in time because she is pregnant. So it's kind of probably the same as like a dog sensing the vulnerability of its owner, so maybe that's why. But he's very protective of the family. And Orested claims that he is also more powerful than any of Purgius' family. And this is important because Rudeus accidentally summoned one of them and they were not very happy. So that is a good thing that he has an animal buddy to actually keep his family safe, while the Purgius familiars might do something to get revenge for doing that. But yeah, that's kind of all I have for characters. The only other character I would have to say would be the Demon Lord of the Library Labyrinth, but all I have to say is that he really likes books, and he was pretty mad when the books were destroyed. He keeps a record of every book that's ever written, and he was able to talk to Rudeus when Rudeus actually wrote down something. I guess that's a mini thing about him, if that will satisfy you, if you want me to talk about him more. I really couldn't. I totally forgot much about him. But yeah, that's all I have to say about him. And the last character technically is Derek, but we don't know much about him. We only get one chapter in his point of view, and that was a long time ago. And even then he died afterwards, and I don't think we get much of the diary that Luke and Ariel actually read, so I really don't know much to go off of. But anyways, that's all the characters that were introduced in this volume. not really much to say, and not really much for this section, so we'll just get into the next part of this video. Alright, now let's talk about locations. Now, sadly, just like the characters, we only got one location. Besides the floating fortress, we also visit the Library Labyrinth. Now, the Library Labyrinth has many different books in it, and they are actually organized in the order they were made. So from the very first book that was ever made, all the way to the recent book. And even now, we learn that if a book is being currently made, it will also be here in this library. That's how Rudeus was actually able to talk with the demon lord of this library. So that's a really interesting thing. And that's actually kind of it. It's just a giant library. There's many monsters in there, and if you actually destroy a book, they really go crazy. That's how they went out. When they actually destroyed the contents of the book, they were actually forced out of there, and Rudeus had no hope of ever returning. So we're probably never going to visit this place, and that's all I have to say about this. Not really much in terms of location, but this volume's not really a big adventure stuff. It's more to build up the next volume. So I will kind of give it some leeway why we don't visit any other location. But I kind of wanted more from this besides it being just a giant labyrinth filled with books. But you get what you get. Alright, now let's get to the moments. So the first moment that I have is Luke asks Rudeus for help. So Luke goes to Rudeus' house and flirts with Eris. He gets knocked out because that's what Eris does and awakens to Rudeus. Now, he didn't just go there because he's a playboy, even though that really is mostly what he is. He begs Rudeus' help to win Purgius' favor. Now, the reason why I put this here is because I think this is like the very first time Luke has actually asked Rudeus for help. Normally, he doesn't care for Rudeus. In fact, he probably hates him because he thinks Rudeus is after Grey Rat title, so he doesn't want him to be part of it. But Rudeus doesn't really care for that, so, it's kind of something he just thinks about. But like I said, this is the first time Luke has actually asked Rudeus for help. And I kind of see it as like good character development. He's putting his hatred aside so that the princess could actually achieve her goals. And I kind of do like that. Next, we got Rudeus talks with Sylphie. So after the talk with Luke, Rudeus talks with Sylphie. He says that Luke wants him to help Ariel become the ruler of Asura, mostly at the part where she needs to win favor with Purgius. And all in all, during the conversation, she accepts the help and agrees to help as well. And that's basically it. I put this here because, it's a good moment to have Rudeus and Sylphie talk, especially when it comes to this being Rudeus helping Sylphie out. Now, it's been a while. I don't remember if Rudeus actually talks about Luke actually being a traitor. I don't think this was actually mentioned. It could have been, but I totally forgot. So, comment down below if I am right or wrong and all that. But the next moment that I have is that Rudeus and Ariel talk. And yeah, Rudeus does talk to a lot of people in this volume. So Ariel's all alone in the floating fortress garden, and Rudeus sees her and they begin to talk. And most of the time they just, talk about like what is the answer to Purgius' question, which is what makes a good king. And Ariel doesn't know. Ariel's not really sure, but she's determined to find the answer because she believes that she needs to rule over her kingdom because it's the right decision. Of course, this is mostly because of Derek, the person who actually protected her. But, she has a goal and she wants to accomplish it. And I just put this here because, Rudeus is talking to someone. There's always lighthearted moments in here. And I do really like it when you get to see more into a character than just what they are normally like. And then the next moment that I have is Ariel and Luke read Derek's diary. So after some time, Ariel, Luke, Glyceline, Eris, Sylphie, and Rudeus go to the Library Labyrinth in hopes of finding, and their main clue is Purgius' friend, which I forgot his name, but it was someone he thinks was the best ruler that Asura had. But instead of finding a book on him, Rudeus actually finds a book on Derek. And eventually when he finds this book, he gives it to Ariel and Luke. They both read it and they actually feel heartwarming and actually kind of feel sad about it. This is the last document of Derek and their thoughts on each other. And, you know, it's a good moment to actually have it. Even Sylvie gets in on it and wonders what kind of person he was if they were crying over him. He must have been a really important person for them to be crying over him. And it really is a touching moment for both of them. But it's also here that she finds the answer to Purgius' question. And then after accidentally destroying the book, they get chased out by the monster and leave. And that's kind of the end of this moment. The reason why I like this is because you get more into these two characters and you get to see how important Derek was to them, even though we only got to see him for like one chapter. And then another moment that I have is Ariel tells Purgius about her answer. So Ariel meets up with Purgius to give him her answer. She gives it to him and he tells her to actually explain the answer. She does, and she actually wins him over. Now, it's actually here that we learn that that wasn't the answer that he was looking for, but because of her determination to actually do her best and actually show that she's not swayed by anything, he actually accepts and realizes, you know what, this person I can go behind. And I really do like this because it is an end of this part of the volume. It kind of has a really good build up in this volume and is pretty nice, ending it off in a high note with Ariel having the backing of one of the greatest people in this world. So it would also make it a lot more easier for her to win over the people of Asura, both nobles and commoners. And one last moment that I want to put in here, and it's not really important to the story, and it's Rudeus, Cliff, and Zenobo having a guys' night out. Not much to it. Zenobo and Cliff are actually worried about Rudeus and they want him to be careful because of Orested, because when they see it they hate him, but of course that's because of his curse and Rudeus is immune to that, and also his children will also be immune to it. But anyways, they're just having a normal guy night out. They get drunk and make something, and yeah, that's basically all it happens in there. I put this here because, you know, it's good to have friends and, you know, friends do whatever, so that's kind of why I have that. And that's all I have in the moments. If you think I missed any moments, you know, always comment down below and tell me some moments that stuck out to you in this volume. Alright, now let's end this video. So if I were to rank this volume, I would honestly rank it a B. Now, I know this may come as a surprise, and I do really like this volume. It had a good story, and it is really great to see more Ariel moments instead of, you know, Rudeus or Sylvie and all that. And I do enjoy the character development that we got here. But the main issue is kind of the beginning. We get the Leo thing, and it just did not stick with it at all. Why did we need this in the beginning? In fact, why not just have this, like, be some other point in time? Now, in terms of the story, it kind of does make sense. You know, Rudeus is actually very paranoid now that he betrayed the man god, so he needs some help to actually do that. But, you know, this could have probably waited a bit. You know, we got Eris there, and she's very strong. She actually has a title now and is feared. And also Glyceline is still there too, so there could have been some time to actually, you know, find someone to replace it. I just couldn't see why the Leo thing had to be in this volume. There could have been some time to actually get Leo in here, and maybe in a different volume, maybe more slice and life bits to have Leo here. That would have probably made more sense than to just have it here, but, you know, we got it here, and it kind of was a big disappointment. It literally stuck out of the whole volume. But all in all, this volume was a great volume. Not too big, because we also didn't get many new characters, or we didn't get, like, any real big locations. Like I said, this is more of like a setup thing for the other volume. But all in all, this is a good read. It's not the best, but, you know, it's not even the worst, or not even a bad one. It's just a good volume in Mushoku Tensei. Alright, and that is the end of this video. If you really enjoyed it, please like, share, and subscribe for more videos just like this. And come back next time as I talk about Volume 17. Ariel has finally won the favor of Purgius, and now her goal is to claim the throne. And as always, I'm the Anime Bro, and have a wonderful time, and see you guys later. Peace! you.